This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Monday, November the 24th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams, he's produced the program. Let's get it going. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial, get in the queue and on the air, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 86. 26. So last week we mentioned that St. John's native Abby Nook made the Boston Fleet in the Professional Women's Hockey League at a camp, signed a professional contract, and yesterday afternoon made her pro debut. Made a point of tuning in to have a look at Abby making her debut for Boston as a professional hockey player. So no matter how you slice it, no matter what happens into the future, now of course I hope Abby has a long, successful professional hockey career, maybe sneak into a national team one of these days, but pro hockey player forevermore. Played yesterday against Montreal. Boston beat Montreal 2-0. Okay. And I hear more mentions of Jada Lee, of course, from this province. Broke records when she played for the boys team at the Canada Summer Games. Selected to play professional women's baseball in the first round, 14th overall. But I went on to read the story that some 20 women from this country were selected in the inaugural professional women's baseball draft. And a quick check-in on the Newfoundland Regiment, playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, of course. Playing in Quebec this past weekend, they got trounced Friday night, 6-1. Bounced back with a 6-2 win to split the weekend. They're right in the middle of the pack in their division. 24 games in, 12 wins, 10 losses, 1 overtime loss, 1 shootout loss, but they're right there in the hunt. All right, let's get to this story. It's always disheartening to me when hockey is pointed to as one of the problematic sports. Now, there is a dark culture inside of hockey in some corners. I think people can honestly admit that. But this report coming from Hockey Canada is not great. And it's about the number of penalties handed out in the province related to racial and sexual discrimination. Because as anyone who's ever played any sports, it's certainly contact sports, emotions get the best of people, even the best of people, and people get carried away. But this is a problem. All right, so there's a rule called 11.4 related to comments about a player's race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation. Last season, it was used 40 times, and that's way up from 25 times the previous season. All right. So, obviously, this is a problem. Now, for me, it's as much a statement not only about hockey, but about society in general. Things are testy out there, and things are pretty nasty when it comes to issues regarding misogyny and homophobia and any other type of discrimination you can mention. A lot of it, of course, comes and is born from social media, but you know, when you look at young hockey players, in this case, young people, period, a lot of the bad behavior is a learned behavior. So you wonder how much of it comes from what they hear their own parents saying, what they hear their own coaches saying, what they unfortunately hear political leaders saying. So obviously that conversation can happen between coaches or at Hockey Newfoundland and Labrador or at Hockey Canada's level. But this type of thought process, this willingness to lash out based on race or sexual discrimination, is something that as moms and dads and caregivers and nads and pops, we really have to talk about. I mean, you look around. Those instances are out of control. Now, I realize social media is not necessarily real life. The amount of rage farming that is coming from elsewhere in the world, outside of the country, and yes, inside of the country, really is a poor reflection on where we are these days. But anyway, that Hockey Canada report is certainly worth consideration, especially in the hands and the hearts of the parents. What do you think? All right. All right, 'tis the season, whether it be Black Friday shopping or Cyber Monday shopping and or simply preparing for the Christmas season, the holiday season. The RNC is putting out their annual warning, and it's a good one. You know, how many people have clicked online to buy gifts, and whether it be high-end electronics or otherwise, the issue is for the criminals out there who are casing the hood. They're going around your neighborhood, they're looking for packages on the porches, and they call themselves, or we refer to them as, porch pirates. So be very aware. people take different approaches, whether it be for neighbours to play a neighbourly role and keep an eye out. You know, that if you see a package and you have an arrangement with your neighbour, if you see it, do you mind grabbing it for me before I get home from work, or whatever the case may be? Some people choose to have their packages delivered to the office, which is a possibility for some. I suppose it's worthwhile clearing it with your employer. But Canadians lose millions of dollars per year for people just stealing the package off your porch. So beware of the porch pirates. Come up with a plan so you can save yourself that frustration. And I see in the world of delivery, apparently there's an agreement in principle, a potential tentative agreement coming when the language gets sorted out between the Canada Postal Workers and the Canada Post Corporation. No question, something has to change. It really, truly has to change. I mean, you cannot have an unsustainable loss of $1 billion plus every single year. At some point, whether they be effectively insolvent or whatever the case may be now, the future Canada Post is very much in question. And for many people around the last mile of delivery, they can only hope that Canada Post endures into the future. So whether it be door-to-door delivery, whether it be rural postal outlets, of which there's some 4,000 in the country, but for the folks working for Canada Post and the folks relying on Canada Post, they've got to change whatever's happening, because you cannot be viable into the future with those types of losses. But it looks like there's a tentative agreement coming, eventually to be voted on by the members, some 55,000 plus, and we'll see what that happens. There's not a whole lot of detail released yet, so not much to get into necessarily, but a big conversation in many parts of the country. All right, and you know, again, we're going to see lots of these types of stories in the media leading up to the holiday season, Christmas. When we know that my purchasing power, the value of my money is down, cost of living is up, the numbers of people registering, whether it be at the Single Parents Association or the 2 million plus people relying on food banks or any other charitable organization or not-for-profit, trying to fill the gaps where people are falling through. You know, far be it from me to suggest you do anything under the sun with your own hard-earned money, but just look around at the need. It's unbelievable. And I suppose I don't have any more of a unique perspective than anybody else listening to the program, but we hear a lot of stories here on the show live, and they pale in comparison to the number of emails we got regarding people struggling on every different type of level imaginable. So the charities are out there. They need your support. If you are so inclined and have the capacity to do so, maybe give it some consideration into the future. Because how many people may have been the monthly donor of $20, say, to the Community Food Sharing Association, and that $20 is not available any longer? And I'm sure there's probably people out there listening who maybe in the past have made sporadic donations, but can maybe afford to be a little bit more frequent a donor to some of these charities. Again, it's your money, you do whatever you like, but the need is just unbelievable. And in that front, you know, I suppose we'll have to get Susan Walsh back on the program. I always enjoy speaking with Susan, of course, the province's seniors advocate. The report she released last week is, I don't know how surprised anybody should be, but we have the oldest median age in the country. 25% of the population are seniors, 65 plus. Their median income is the lowest in the country. Violence against seniors is on the rise. So as seniors and or people who are moms or dads or nans or pops or seniors, have you taken the opportunity to read the Seniors Advocate report? And if so, and you want to talk about some of the different issues highlighted by Susan Walsh, we're absolutely happy to have you on the program this morning. And I mentioned food banks. 13% of seniors live in this province with moderate to severe food insecurity. That's an increase of 5.4% from the previous year. So there is a lot inside of that world. Even though some of the quote-unquote positive news, 88% of seniors indicated they're satisfied or very satisfied with their lives. 84% they feel somewhat or very strong in their sense of belonging. But there's a lot inside that report. We're happy to take it on from any angle. Oh, and on that front, there was a email last week referring to the fact that GoBus only accepts cash. GoBus has offered us some clarification on exactly what riders have to do in effort to pay. They do have to pay a bus fare, but when you apply and you're approved to be a GoBus passenger, you get a free bus program for seniors who receive guaranteed income supplement. Number one, they receive a welcome package including all the information and options regarding a refillable card to pay, and you can do that online. So anyway, they wanted me to put that out there. Happy to do it for the purpose of accuracy. All right, for folks, living in and around the east end of town. So looks like there's some two major housing developments are moving towards actually putting some units in place, whether it be on the old Ballyhaley golf property or down in Pleasantville. Pleasantville is a federal crown corporation called Canada Lands Company. There was actually a representative in this studio last week speaking with Jerry Lynn. They're talking about adding 1,000 homes in the Pleasantville area. Now it's going to be mixed use between apartment buildings, townhouses, hopefully some retail and the like will be included. Add that to the 1,200 proposed units in Ballyhaley. We're told that the city has no real concerns about that kind of addition. Now, one thing, the city needs housing. Let's just put that out there. But even in the world of traffic, I live in the East End, and I'm not going to play NIMBY here because I realize that the city needs units and needs them now. But, boy, that's going to be an awful lot of activity in that neck of the woods. But if you want to take it on, we can do it. And on that front, you know, I've put it out there a couple of times about the possibility to have a conversation, not immediate implementation, of rent control. Get some pushback from some landlords, and that's understandable. I mean, we know their perspective would be different than those who are looking at a very low vacancy rate and the increase in the cost of rent. So how do we pragmatically approach that conversation? Number one, and some people don't want to hear it, but c'est la vie. There's lots of finger points of blame going around, whether it be with some of the hurdles you have to clear at the municipal level, whether it be some of the lack of information at Build Canada Homes, a new special operating agency created in the most recent budget. People will talk about the role of the province. Okay. And then there's lots of finger points of blame at a certain group of newcomers, immigrants to the country, about the pressures they put on housing. Now, it's clear that the housing market has not kept up with the pace of population growth. Same thing can be said for access to primary care in the healthcare system. But what gets left out of this is a pretty important feature. It's just about how many homes in this country are owned by foreign investment and corporate ownership. It's an issue. It really, truly is. According to Stats Canada, institutional investors now own 20% of Canada's housing stock, and many of those units sit empty. It's a speculative market. So they buy them up. They don't even necessarily have to rent them at this very moment in time because they can sit on it. They've got the very deep pockets, American hedge funds or otherwise. So while we point fingers of blame around at different levels of government, at different segments of society, how about that? I mean, foreign investors. I mean, that is nowhere near Canada's best interest for 20% of housing stock to be owned by institutional investors. And again, according to Stats Canada. And they actually have some relatively detailed numbers on the number of units owned by foreign entities that remain empty. And they go on to talk about very real things. Over the last 2 decades, real wages have stagnated for the most part for many Canadians. Corporate profits have soared. Then you can incorporate things like predatory landlords and the conversion into short-term rentals, which is an impact in some communities, no question about it. But the finger point to blame maybe doesn't always get pointed in the right direction necessarily. And this is a story out there, not exactly sure what to make of it. But how many people, as opposed to go directly to your favorite hotel or hotel company, you lose one of the vacation apps, Booking.com or Hotels.com or whatever one you actually go to. But we have to be so careful. Now, the fine print, of course, will rule the day, but how many people who click to book a hotel room go all the way through, read every bit of fine print, as opposed to the bare necessities of understanding the hotel, the location, the proximity to whatever event you want to attend, and the price? This one's about what they call event pricing or surge pricing. So this woman who wanted to go to the Formula One race in Montreal, meet up some of her family coming from abroad, she did all the homework and got in there early in the game, booked her hotel rooms, 4-night stay to cost somewhere around just over $4,000. At some point shortly after, Booking.com comes back to her and says, oh, we can't honor the price. It's not accurate. They didn't incorporate the event pricing. They've got an algorithm that's baked in to your scrolling, but because of events and the surge pricing, same thing can be said for Uber and otherwise, is of course for hoteliers and others, if you know demand is going to be way up, they'll take the opportunity to jack up their prices. And so they said, oh, well, you can keep the hotel room, but it's going to cost you $17,000 as opposed to $4,000. It's patently unfair. And I mean, the best bit of marketing is word of mouth. And for companies that will not play along and hold up their end of the bargain, this lady did the work. She did the search. She got in there early. She booked it and put it on her credit card, just to be told shortly thereafter, sorry, quadruple. You can have the room, but, I mean, come on, right? All right, what else do we want to get to here very quickly? All right, so let's put the Upper Churchill back on the radar again this morning. You know, the couple of observations that many have made, including myself, is this conversation would be so different if it was simply sent for a different layer or level of independent review the day after or the week after it was first announced back in the rooms all those months ago. But here we are. Another question I would have is, I think most people see the merit in an independent review. Why not? It's too much on the line. We're talking about 50 plus years of a relationship with Hydro-Quebec and the province of Quebec. But how comprehensive can an independent review be of this MOU? I mean, 30-odd pages. And it's going to cost an arm and a leg to get it done. I don't begrudge the Wakeham government for doing it, because they said they would, and people think it's probably a pretty good idea. We can talk about timing and the deadlines and all the rest of it, but Hydro-Quebec, remember, even our independent review, we're probably not going to get much in the way of information from Hydro-Quebec. With all of their comments about replacement costs, 12 to 14 cents versus the 5.9 we're talking about on average inside this MOU. So we're going to be reviewing half of the deal, it feels like, as opposed to when definitive agreements come about and it's about time to put pen to paper, what that might mean for a review at that stage. So there's a lot to it, of course, but if you want to take it on, we can do it. And we're also talking about some people's thoughts on industrial strategy in Labrador, in the mining sector, and artificial intelligence and data centers, even though I'm not so sure that's the best idea, but your thoughts are welcome. On that front, social media can be fun, can be helpful, can be informative, but it can also be brutal. Social media has given us a standing 8 count, to make a boxing analogy. Artificial intelligence is here to finish us off, being hyperbolic. But when you look at the education accord, and unfortunately some 15 citations were identified to be fake, not even real, but part of the report, which has knocked some of the credibility off it, unfortunately so. Now, apparently, as reported by Justin Brake at The Independent, a new Health Human Resources plan, commissioned by the previous Liberal government from global consulting firm Deloitte, cost $1.6 million, cites research papers that don't exist. So what do we have to do here? It's bad enough that we use consultants far too frequently at different government levels, but are we going to have to put in clauses in contracts that say you cannot use artificial intelligence to provide any of the documents you point to that you cite in your report? Second one in a row. Education, so important. The credibility of the accord in some people's minds has been compromised because of the fake citations. Same thing here. What? So whether it be how Deloitte conducts these types of reports on behalf of the government, fairly lucrative contract, but more fake citations. Just look around in your own social media feed or anywhere on the internet. What we see, hear, read is becoming extremely difficult to decipher, number one, and to understand whether or not it's real. It's just all day, every day. You know, how much time do you have to spend if you're trying to get accurate information to go and verify every little thing you read, every little thing you see or hear, because who knows anymore? Legitimately, who knows what the hell is going on? And a lot of that is absolutely booted by AI. It could be helpful, healthcare applications and otherwise, but for the vast majority of it, boy, oh boy. All right, last one. Oh, and I heard a news story about artificial intelligence and AI scribe. The transcribing of your conversation between you and your doctor, some privacy concerns have been highlighted. It does deal with some administrative time spent by doctors and their assistants or clerical staff, but anything out of envelope, let's go. All right, a couple of very quick ones. So the G20 just wrapped up in South Africa, the first time it was held in Africa, period. You know, people will bemoan the Prime Minister traveling around and what have you, but, you know, to try to strike and further some partnerships economically and otherwise in the world, I don't know what option is available. But then asked by members of the media about when's the last time, or do you plan on speaking with President Trump in the near future? And the Prime Minister, a little bit too cavalier for my liking, simply says, who cares? even if I don't think many Canadians think we should just, get on bended knee and do whatever we're told by the Americans, why would we? We have stuff they need and want, and we should negotiate the best deal possible. But it's also words matter, and we know there's a petulant individual sitting in the Oval Office, so things like that would just further draw his ire. Look no further than how they reacted to the Ronald Reagan-referenced ad run by the Government of Ontario, Premier Ford. But the Prime Minister needn't speak like that. Is it important to deal with the Americans? Of course. Do we rely too much on the Americans historically? Probably so, given what we're dealing with at this moment in time. So anyway, there has been some deals struck, and of course, agreements of principle. You don't come home with suitcases full of money or big checks in your pocket, but you want to talk about that type of action abroad and where we are in the national stage, where we are in negotiations with the Americans on trade and what have you. We're happy to do it here on this program, of course. But imagine a final declaration come from the G20 with no contribution from the United States of America. It's remarkable. It really, truly is. Oh, and in the world of buying American food, of which there's plenty of it sold and bought by people in this country, it's just remarkable to me once again. So the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, is now greenlighting pesticides made with PFAS, forever chemicals. We talk about PFAS that has polluted the wells down in Torbay, for instance. So they're using these pesticides with PFAS on things like lettuce, broccoli, potatoes. They're also talking about weakening regulation regarding drinking water. But that PFAS conversation, just for your information, if that's going to be something into the future where you go into the grocery store, see lettuce or broccoli that came from the United States, you need to ask yourself whether or not the pesticide used to grow that product included PFAS, an extremely dangerous to your health forever chemical. Ask the folks in Torbay about it and they'll tell you. All right, we're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we go back, let's get the week off to a flying start. That means you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Dave Rodofsky. You're on the air.
Hey, hi there, Paddy. It's a long time since we spoke.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I want to put a plug in for the Positive Thinkers Club. We're in our 36th year of operation, started in 1989, and we have a meeting coming up this Saturday, November the 29th at 10 a.m. at the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 56 in Pleasantville. And we have wonderful guest speakers. This week we have Laura Bell, MBA, who was the guest speaker, first person of colour to run into provincial politics. So I wanted to put a shout out and to invite anybody that would like to come along to the event to come and see us on Saturday.
Dave, I believe you and John Snow are the co-founders, aren't you?
That's right, yes. John passed away 3 or 4 years ago, unfortunately, and we started the club in February of 1989.
It sounds pretty self-explanatory what happens at the Positive Thinkers Club and their events, but what does happen, Dave?
We meet for breakfast. It's a breakfast meeting, and we start with affirmations. That's a key part of what we do at Positive Thinkers. Affirmations that help you feel good about yourself and help you cope with life in general. And then we have the meal, the breakfast, and then we have a guest speaker from many different walks of life, and then some housekeeping, and we usually finish at around 11:30 or so.
What does average attendance look like, Dave? How many people participate?
We usually typically have between 30 and 40 members, sometimes more, sometimes less, but the average is about 30 to 40 folks.
You know, we all see, it depends on how active people are on social media or their consumption of news on television or what have you, but there's an awful lot out there that make people feel down in the mouth. The doom and the gloom is hard to avoid, as positive as some people may be. Make your pitch to folks who are maybe feeling that little bit of dark cloud hanging over their head and having a hard time shaking it as to what positive thinkers might mean to them, to maybe just give them that affirmation, give them that little sense of a bright light at the end of whatever tunnel length may be.
Yeah, well, we kind of think of it as a recharging of the batteries. We meet every month on the last Saturday of the month, and so we give ourselves a bit of a lift, and for sure, if anybody's feeling down, or if they're not, if there's some issue that they're being faced with, it's a good way to kind of perk yourself up and enjoy a morning and go back home ready to fight the day again.
Because it's never-ending battle, it feels like. Dave, give the folks the details where and when for this breakfast meeting and to hear from Laura Limbaugh.
Sure. It's next Saturday, November 29th at 10 a.m. at the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 56 in Pleasantville. You do have to register in advance. And if you go to our website, which is www.positivethinkersclub.ca, and you can register online, and all the information is there about the guest speaker. And if you Google us, you'll find us that way as well.
I appreciate making time for the show, Dave. Nice to speak with you.
Yeah, and to you, Paddy, and thank you so much for your time.
Happy to do it. Take good care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. You know, for some people in their ears might feel like, I don't need manufactured platitudes or affirmations, what have you. But boy, oh boy, some escape, and you know me, some of my escapes include things simply like music and sports. But for maybe if that doesn't tickle your fancy, and you never know, maybe you just give it a shot, and it might be something that becomes part of your routine to be involved with the Positive Thinkers Club. All right, let's get a break in right on time. When we come back, lots of show left for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 5. So give more to the PC member for Harbour, Maine. She's the Minister of Justice and Public Safety. That's Helen Conway Ottenheimer. Minister, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty, and thank you very much for taking the time to have me on this morning.
Happy to do it.
So, Patty, I'm calling to let you know about a very important event that we're holding tomorrow at Confederation Building, and it's the Purple Ribbon Flag Raising event. And it's important that I call about this today because this event is really drawing attention to the scourge, if you will, of gender-based violence, which is happening across our country, the world, and even in our own home here of Newfoundland and Labrador.
I mean, the event is important, but the topic itself, of course, is extremely important. The uptick is unbelievable. I mean, we've had emergency shelters even say that they're over capacity, can't even accept any other people. Well, they can help direct to some other avenues for help, but it's getting away from us. We get reports about the court dockets, the number of cases involving intimate partner violence, child abuse and otherwise. So the event is one thing. How are we going to use that as a jumping off block to talk about the conversation a little deeper?
So, well, first of all, just speaking about violence in general, which what you just identified, one important statistic that I've heard recently that is very shocking, and I think that needs to be put out there, first of all, before we even get into what some of the solutions are. We need to understand that, for example, every 48 hours in our country, a woman or girl is killed in an act of gender-based violence. So, to me, that statistic alone is just it's startling and it's devastating because we know that violence destroys families, relationships, communities, and the devastating long-term effects that it has on its victims. So, when we have this discussion about violence and gender-based violence, we have to recognize the seriousness of this, and that it's impacting our lives in our province, and that there are many women and gender diverse individuals that are suffering right now in silence in the homes in our province.
No question. Now, men can be on the receiving end, but we're the minority as it pertains to intimate partner violence.
Yes.
And what we also need is for people who chime in on these conversations and simply say, if you're living in a dangerous situation, simply leave. That really oversimplifies a very complicated problem. It could be issues regarding children or money or pets or even a place to go. And sometimes it's the worry that if you do indeed leave, that the violence just intensifies. So please, people, stop dismissing or, talking down the issue with just saying, well, if it's a bad situation, just simply leave, because nothing's that simple.
And you're right. When the point you made about the majority of victims of violent crime, for example, are women. So we know that to be true. We also know how difficult it is. It's not an easy thing to say for a woman to leave a very abusive situation. That is very challenging at times, and so that it's not an easy thing to happen. And I'm glad that you acknowledge that. So when we look at violence, getting to your other point, we believe, and from what we understand, and as the new Minister of Women and Gender Equality, we know that violence is preventable. And of course, our goal is to have a society free from it. But that also is not an easy fix, and it's going to require much collaboration. I think there's many things that we can do, and that I, as the minister, am committed to doing. For example, collaborating with community partners. That's got to be a priority, to have a broad cross-section of our community engaged and participating, having multiple departments involved. And something else, Patty, that I've discussed numerous times in conversations with you on your program is the need for a violence prevention action plan. There was one in place back from 2015 to 2019 that was allowed to lapse. We need to have that as a model going forward. It is very important that we have a plan in place. We have to have evidence and research as a foundation for any policies that we implement. If we do not have that, then I believe we are not really able to effectively tackle this serious problem of gender-based violence.
It's a societal ill, and I think you used the word scourge, and you're not wrong. You know, I mentioned, not to derail this conversation, but I mentioned a story off the top this morning regarding Hockey Canada statistics. The amount of misogyny and racism and sexual discrimination, I think that speaks to not just minor hockey, but I think it speaks to the state of youth and adults across the country. The conversation is getting away from us. If more and more young men feel disenfranchised and this issue of misogyny creeps into their psyche as youth, it's likely to manifest itself into violence as they grow into adulthood, grow into having relationships. So, even in schools, we talk about a body safety program, what have you, and that was long overdue, and I think that's going to be helpful in the long term. I think we have to be honest with ourselves and how we talk with our youth as well. Because if you form those societal thoughts in your head about women or other races being less than, then the possibility for you to be on the court docket as an abuser really grows. I really think that we start a little bit too late in life with these types of conversations, afraid to make our children aware of some of the real problems in society, but the problems, when they are left unattended or in the shadows, then of course things just get worse. They'll learn all their bad habits from the buddies who don't know what they're talking about, whether it be about sex or violence or otherwise. So as adults and as educators and as politicians, we owe it to them.
That is such a vital point that you make. Why is that? Because we need to look at public awareness about changing attitudes and at an early age. Violence prevention education campaigns need to be launched. I think that's something that I am in the preliminary stages of examining, looking at education, looking at changing attitudes at an early age. And that is something I think that we need to really concentrate on if we're going to end the cycle of violence. We have to start by changing, hearts and minds. And we must teach our young people what healthy relationships look like. And that is critical. That goes to the point that you just made. And that is something that is very important. We're only in early days here, as Minister of Women and Gender Equality, but that is definitely a priority. And when you talk about public awareness as well, Patty, that's why this event tomorrow is so important, the provincial Purple Ribbon campaign, because it is about bringing public awareness. It is about changing attitudes. And that's why, we have this. I mean, it's November the 25th to December the 6th. That is the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So that is really important because it's an international campaign, but our campaign, our Purple Ribbon campaign, starts tomorrow. And I'm very, very, hopeful that tomorrow really is the beginning of some very effective and concrete change. We're going to have the Premier will be attending. We will have Minister Evans, who will MC the event, Minister Barber, who will also be speaking at the event, as well as myself. And we will have 14 during this event, 14 women and girls who lost their lives to gender-based violence will be remembered, and their families will be honored for the courage that they've had to share their experiences. We're going to be hearing from Lisa Lake, the mother of Courtney Lake, who will be speaking about, her daughter who is missing and suspected homicide. And so it's a difficult day, but it's very important because we need to start to recognize the seriousness and the need for us to start changing attitudes due to the violence that we're seeing in our province. And so the event starts at 11 o'clock, Patty, in the main lobby of the Federation Building, East Block. It's open to the public. I encourage members of the public to attend. We're also asking any attendees to bring brightly colored flowers in memory of people who've lost their lives, or even if you've been impacted by gender-based violence. We all need to work together, and this is how we're going to be able to end this violence in our communities.
Public awareness and a campaign to eradicate as best possible, obviously important. But then we arrive at a point where violence has taken place and someone thinks enough is enough and they go and file a report with the police. Then it's the conditions of release. So where are we on the electronic monitoring? The proposed expansion of the ankle bracelet program, I know expanded to Clarenville last year, sometime in the spring or the summer, but that needs to be expanded and to include every single person who's a repeat offender and are accused of a serious act of violence in the home, intimate partner violence. So where are we on the ankle bracelet monitoring program?
So with respect to that program, in fact, before we became, we entered into government, I know that there were groups that had spoke out on that, not only having the electronic monitoring program, but for individuals that are out on bail and that have been charged with, violence, crimes of violence. And so I, as the Minister of Justice, am very supportive of that initiative. I think it's something that we need to examine and look at, because I think that that is one way, at least, to provide some sort of support and, perhaps comfort and perhaps safety, hopefully safety, for the victims who have experienced violence at the hands of their partners.
This is not necessarily directly related to the topic, but, there are victim surcharges and what have you. But as the Minister of Justice and Public Safety, it just pops in my mind with the numbers we see with the outstanding fines. And some of that can be about victim surcharge. Some of it can be about contraband tobacco. Some of it can be with contravention of the Highway Traffic Act. So there was talk about community service for people who refuse to pay or simply cannot pay. And not everyone will go ahead and abide by the community service. But it's that essence of holding people accountable, which we don't do enough of in this country. Is your plan as the current minister to move forward with exploring this community service concept? Because to me, it makes sense. I know it comes with liabilities and supervision, but it might give people pause before they go ahead and break a law, knowing that their weekends might be cleaning up graffiti or cleaning up butts or cleaning up needles or whatever the case may be.
So I've been a very strong supporter of any type of community service order plan. So when we look at, victim fine surcharges or any other type of sentencing option, we don't have that in place in our province in terms of having community service. But that is something that should be examined. I think it's important. I think it goes to the issue of accountability, and it goes to the issue of, looking at these kinds of innovative policies or innovative programs that perhaps may not have been entertained in the past by the former administration. So I do think that has to be, as you say, explored. And, I'm still in the early stages of my tenure as Minister of Justice and Minister of Women and Gender Equality. And I might add on that, I'm really happy that, both of these departments, I think it's a benefit where I am Minister of Justice and Public Safety and Minister of Women and Gender Equality, because I think there will be benefit there because these two departments intersect and we can integrate even more effective policies to tackle gender-based violence. So whether it's with respect to policies or whether it's with respect to strengthening our laws so that there's safety for victims of violence.
Appreciate your time this morning, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Helen Conway-Ottenheimer is Minister of Justice, Public Safety and Women. Let's see here. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number one. Say good morning to one of our friends and colleagues over at CHMR. That's Memorial University Radio. That's Colleen Power. Hi, Colleen. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Great today. How about you?
I'm pretty good. And thanks so much for taking my call. We're here on the radio, and, you have got a lot of listeners, and you can reach the whole province. And I'm calling on behalf of CHMR Mun Radio. We're going to start having a series of fundraisers for the station, which, has a great history, and we have been around since 1951, Patty. We're one of the oldest, and we are the most well-established community radio stations in the province, and we've trained hundreds of professional broadcasters and journalists over the years. And I know you did a little stint at CHMR, Patty.
I did. My first exposure to being in the media was at CHMR. I was a guest on a sports show, and that led me into having a couple of my own shows. So I was there for a few years, and it was a great experience. And without it, I probably wouldn't even have my foot further into the media pool as I do today.
Mm-hmm. So we need a little bit of help for our operations, and I heard all about your show. I wasn't around when you had a show, and there's been so many people come through. In my 15 years at the station, I've trained in the news department so many journalists who went on, not just local media. We've got people off in, Scotland. We've got people in Ontario. We've got people doing TV in Nova Scotia. They went on not just to radio, but to other communications venues and television stations. We've had meteorologists come through and do their stint at CHMR as well. So we want to continue that work, and we want to also promote local and emerging musicians and acts. We air a lot of local talent on our radio stations, and in this day and age when artists don't make money from streaming, we still do. We pay out our royalties and we pay our SOCAN fees, and we are still an important entity that we want to continue this work, and we're not for profit. So today's economic climate is not really. It's not that supportive of not-for-profits, and so it's getting harder. So we're expanding our fundraising efforts to keep running this public community service. We still have lots of students and community members at the station, very diverse programming. You can have a look at chmr.ca and see how many, communities are represented on the station as well.
So what does the financial and fiscal future of CHMR look like at this point? I know ongoing fundraisers is going to be part and parcel of it, but where is the station?
Well, we're still on the go. It's just that right now we kind of dropped off with our fundraisers a little bit in recent years, but it was always a part of CHMR, but everything is more expensive. So we're just trying to keep it going. We need a bit of help. But right now, as it stands, we are going to definitely have probably a few fundraisers a year to keep our operations going. With so many students and volunteers, equipment, as you know, technology is always changing. So we just need a bit of a boost.
Fair enough. And I'll put this quick plug in, whether it be for opportunities for young musicians, whether it be for some training for future members of the media, whether it simply be as a place for information to be exchanged, not only for Memorial University students, but for everybody in the community. Every time we lose, whether it be a small weekly newspaper or a small media outlet or a university radio station, whether or not you believe it to be true, the fact of the matter is it hurts. It's detrimental. For CHMR to go by the wayside would be an absolute shame. Not just because I have a personal bias and did a couple of shows over there, because that's a couple of decades ago now, but losing every little piece of the pie eventually just brings us back to this oversaturated media conglomerate ownership of media. Every little outlet is important. So if you can support CHMR or your local weekly or whatever the case may be, if you think about it in broad terms, they're the people that cover the small issues where you are. We can cover international diplomacy on CHMR, but issues that are small to the university community or to the community at large, that's where you get the coverage. Not at the big conglomerate-owned media companies, at outlets like CHMR. So hopefully the future is bright.
Yes, indeed, Patty. So our first fundraiser we're having is a CHMR Celebrity Alumni Karaoke. And so we've got members of the local media coming in to sing some karaoke, and we're going to sit down and enjoy listening to them sing karaoke, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people. It's coming up on December 4th. At the Breezeway. As you probably know, CHMR Mon Radio is owned and operated by the Memorial University Students' Union. So they are providing the space for us to do this fundraiser. And the first of many, and I hope lots of people will want to come out and support us, A lot of people did get their start. You're sitting down watching MTV, and a lot of people on there right now, and you're listening to VOCM. I know, Patty, you can't make it, but we've got Richard Duggan and Russell Bowers coming to sing some songs for us.
I think it's awesome, and I wish I could be there. I simply can't get away. And, it would be probably a relief to people's ears that I'm not there singing karaoke. If it was a dance contest, I would have made every opportunity to get there because I'm a terrific dancer, just not a very good singer. Colleen, anything else you want to tell us before I have to get to the news?
Well, I would like to invite people to drop by CHMR FM and see what we have to offer. I mean, we are in UC 2009 in the University Center, and also I invite people to send us their news to spread around. You drop by, see our facilities, and you'll see it's a bustling environment with lots of students and community members and very diverse programming that you won't hear anywhere else, Patty. That's the thing. You won't hear our shows anywhere else, and they're very unique.
That they are. Colleen, I appreciate the time. Good luck with all the fundraising events. When we can help in the future, let me know.
Thank you so much, Patty, and thanks to your listeners.
Happy to do it. See you. Take care.
Bye. You
Bye-bye.
too.
It's Colleen Powers, CHMR. Let's get a break in. Appreciate the patience of those in the queue. We're going to talk about the gathering place when we get back. Jeff's got an odd story about access to the drug card, provincially speaking, dangerous drivers, whatever you want to talk about right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Leslie. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thanks for having me on this morning. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Christmas Miracles campaign. We're in our 7th year. We started as a very small community-based, outreach program, doing some food hampers, some gifts for seniors that were living alone, and it's kind of grown and grown over the years. The last 3 years, this will be our 3rd year partnering with the Gathering Place to put off their Christmas blessing bags. So what that is gifts that will be given out during their annual Christmas dinner to all of the patrons of the gathering place, and it will be bags that will contain personal toiletries, winter gloves, toques, mitts, things, just the comforts that we can offer at this time to them. And as it's grown to over 400 bags this year, we're trying to find ways to, raise all of these products and goods and money and things like that. And we don't particularly look to the community for monetary donations. We do have some corporate sponsors that come on to help, with some of the things that are a little harder to get. But this year we were looking to find a way that the general public could help us, and no donation is too small. And we said, sometimes asking people for money this time of year is very stressful on them, and people want to give, they want to be a part of something. But, not everybody can afford to make a substantial monetary donation, and we understand that. So we reached out to make a partnership with the Northeast Avalon Fire Chiefs, and the response was overwhelming from them. So the local fire departments all came together and had agreed to promote this program for us, to allow us to have collection done through their stations. So we've partnered with St. John's Regional Fire Department, CBS Fire Department, Harbour Main, Holyrood, Torbay, Cooch Cove, and Portugal Cove St. Phillips. And what they'll be doing for us is having a community drop at each of their, I'll give you the list of where you can bring things. And we're hoping that other community groups, be it youth groups or the general public, would, pick up an extra mitt, socks. We're looking for new mitts or gloves, winter toques, and socks in particular. And they can be dropped off anytime at any of these following locations, thanks to the wonderful partner with the Avalon East Chiefs Association. So for St. John's, an area, you can go to St. John's Regional Fire Central Station. That's there in Fort Townsend. CBS can go to the main fire station. Torbay is taking collections at the town hall for us. Holyrood Fire Department will be collecting at their station. Portugal Cove St. Phillips will be collecting at their town hall. Cooch Cove will be at their town hall, and Harbour Main will be at their fire station. So we just really want to get it out to the public. Any gesture is greatly appreciated. If you're in the checkout line at your store and you see a pack of socks on sale, pick them up, throw them in your car. You're driving by any of these locations, there'll be a bin. We'll be more than happy to collect them. The campaign will run for 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to bring a lot of joy and comfort to those who are the most vulnerable.
I think it's great, and I'm glad you mentioned socks, because when I speak to people working in that arena, socks are one of the needs that everybody has who use or avails of the services at the Gathering Place or Salvation Army or the Red Cross, what have you. So I think it's awesome what you're doing. And how many bags are you trying to procure this year? What was that number?
We need to do 400. So we do. I know it started. This started in my basement. We were doing 70, and then it grew to 200. Last year it went to 400. This year again it's 400. And those are kind of some of the smaller things that people can pick up and help us with. We do have great, corporate people who come forward anonymously that help us get some of the larger items like deodorant and shampoos and things that we can buy in bulk. Katie Pratt, Technical Rope and Rescue last year, came on board with us. Host has been wonderful. We have so many, the Crossroads Inn and Suites, instrumental in making all this happen, not just for helping us get the things together, but also for hosting us and allowing us space to store the goods and package them and get them ready. It takes a village, and we have so many great people looking to help. We have a lot of local dental offices that have reached out to help us with toothbrushes and toothpaste. So there's always a wonderful array of...
Hello? Leslie? I guess we've lost connection. I can still hear the line. I just can't hear Leslie any longer. If she has anything else she wants to add, she can come back on, Dave, but I'm going to go keep rolling here. Is she back? Let's get Leslie back. Leslie, sorry we lost you. Final thoughts.
Oh, I'm back? Okay, great. So again, I just want to thank everybody, and hopefully we can get the word out. You'll see a lot social media. The fire departments themselves will be advertising, so the more we can get out to people and hope that they can make a small donation. Again, we're looking for socks, hats, and winter toques.
Keep up the good work. I appreciate your time this morning, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, yeah, there you go. If you can help, please do, like we talked about off the top. Let's go to line number 4. Jeff, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
Okay, how about you?
Not too bad. I got 2 little subjects to talk to you about, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
My first one is, actually, I don't know why they're trying to call me back there now on VOCM to get me on the line, but I'm already talking to you. Anyways, so my father in the last year took some money out of his savings. He's up there in age. He's 80, and he took some money out of his savings. Then he went to get his drugs the other day, and he got a call from the pharmacy saying, "Your drug card is cut off." So he took the money out of his savings to pay for his own funeral, which he didn't have to do it, but he felt he wanted to do it, which is fine and dandy. And maybe when I'm up at that age, if the Lord sees fit to keep me around for that long, I'll probably do the same thing. Anyways, basically, because he did that, he lost his drug card from the provincial government, which he probably only had for the last couple of years that he qualified for, because he worked for up till his mid-70s.
Okay, let me see if I'm understanding this. He took money out of his own savings for a very specific purpose to pay for his own funeral and somehow lost his drug card?
Yes, because I guess his income changed, because I guess he took it out of a tax-free account or something like that. Whatever, I'm not even exactly sure, but he took it out of an account of his, which obviously because he took it out of his whatever he had it invested in, or in whether it was a bank or whatever, because he took it out, it drove up his income just to pass the line, obviously, to lose his card. Whatever, I don't even know what it takes to qualify for that.
Yeah, well, my understanding is it's all based on income, not based on, your net worth and what you have in savings or what you have stowed away in an RRSP or what have you, until you take something as a revenue stream and pay taxes on it. So if it, like for instance, if it came out of a tax-free account, then that shouldn't compromise his income, period, obviously, because it's a tax-free related matter.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure exactly what he took it out of, but he took it out of whatever he took it out of. Obviously, it had to go in on his income this year because he took it out, and because of that, like I said, he took it out to pay for his own funeral, but because he took it out, he lost it. He lost out because of his drug plan now, which is, obviously, about all. We don't need to talk about the coolers at the health signs, but there's enough going on into that area where people can't afford to take care of their loved ones. He was in the situation where he was trying to basically alleviate some of the family problem.
Yeah, and so it's a one-time, and they're calling it boost to his income. So does that mean that next month he'll re-qualify because that money was one time, it's in one hand, out the other, paid for a very specific purpose, in this case, funeral?
I would imagine it's based on your tax year, not your month.
Yeah, there's something patently wrong with this.
I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't even make any sense. I am going to do a little follow-up for my own information purposes as to how your drug card access can be impacted by taking some money out of your own bank account. Like, I didn't even know that's how it worked. I thought it was simply based on income. And if he's not, if I have money in my savings account, I've already paid taxes on it, however I got it. Well, for the most part, people have already paid tax on it. Yeah. So if it's not going to be part of filling out or added money to your tax return or your tax filing part of me next year, then I have no idea what relationship it has to the drug card, but I'll try and figure it out. And if I get any information I think will be helpful, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, Patty, also, if I get any news on it, I'd love to hear. I'd love to be able to report it back to you. But he's just basing on his thoughts that he dropped off his prescription, went over to pick it up, or was about to go over to pick it up. Pharmacist called and said, "Listen, your card is not working." And this is what he assumes the reason why it's not working. I don't even know if it's a card. I don't know what you get because I don't have it. But I don't know if it's an actual credit card, or if it's a number you have or whatever. Maybe you know. I don't know. Yeah, but he's just assuming that that's why he got cut off.
Something patently wrong with that story.
Yes, and I'd love to have it clarified, because I'll call you back and tell you, listen, it turns out it was the wrong reason he got cut off, or maybe it was a mistake. I have no idea. But he's pretty sure that this is what it was, right?
Yeah, let me know if you get any more information, and I'll do the same.
Okay, but listen, one quick note.
Yep.
In the last week, I've witnessed 4 shoplifting incidents, and I'm not even a shopper. Like, I don't go to the mall. You're like yourself. Well, I know you grocery shop from listening to your show, but I don't go to any stores unless I need something. That's it. That's bottom line, Anyways, in the past week, I've witnessed 4 shoplifting incidents. A couple of them were at the Home Depot. So then this morning, I was going into Home Depot, returned something that I bought yesterday that didn't work out, that I thought I needed, but wasn't a great item. Anyways, I saw 2 guys going down. One was on the pedal bike, and both of them had 2 dual tools. And you could tell, I knew these fellows because the way they were going. Went in, returned my item, got down around Kelsey Drive so far, rolled down the window, got in the median, probably blocked off a bit of traffic. I just said, boys, what is it? Is it drugs or what is it? And first, they tried to, I just bought this off somebody and, from Marketplace. I'm like, buddy, I just saw you go up the lane at Home Depot with this in your arms. I'm not stupid. I'm not getting out of the car to take it from you. He said, it is drugs. I got on the drugs a couple of years ago, and, he gave me his excuse. Then he told me he had to steal this because he got to buy Christmas gifts for his kids that he's not allowed to see because somebody he begged me not to put his picture on Facebook because he got in trouble last time and he can't see his kids because of that. Anyway, it's just one of those things that I just like, where are we going with this whole, we were at customer service, and I said to the guy who was serving me last week, I said, so you guys don't do nothing about shoplifting here, do you? He said, no, we're told not to. And we stood there while the guy walked out to the door with his items that he just stole. So,
yeah, managers and staff are fearful of violent interactions, right? Which is, I think, the basis for it. And I'm not going to besmirch a certain neighbourhood, but over the weekend, I had cause to be in one part of the city where I'm not normally grocery shopping, but I had to get something, so I went in. And the prevalence of security in this one particular store was unbelievable. And I asked one of the security guards, I said, how long has there been these many security guards here? He says, well, the last number of years. It used to be X, and now it's X times 5. And the vast majority of those guards were working in and around the meat section, which is something too. Oh, that's Jeff dropped. I don't know what happened there, but anywho. And then, some of the big retailers, they'll blame some of the uptick on shoplifting on self-checkouts. Talk about a self-inflicted wound. You put the self-checkout in there. If that leads to more items being shoplifted, and then you pass along those losses to me in the form of increased price for one thing or another, that's not my fault. That's your fault. Let's get a break in. Last week we had a call from a retired judge named Bill English talking about a family mediation public information session that's coming up tomorrow evening. Just a little bit more information, and to plug it one more time because we got tons of feedback on this. Rhona Buchan is a mediator and lawyer. She joins us on line number 3 right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back. In an effort to let Jeff finish his thoughts, we'll rejoin him on 4. Jeff, you're back on the air. Is he, Dave, or?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, go ahead and finish your thoughts, Jeff, before you say goodbye.
I don't know what happened. I'm going to call in another day to talk about cell phone service. Just kidding. Anyways, that was my only point. I just didn't want you to think that I just hung up because I don't know what happened. I wasn't even touching the phone, but it got cut off. But we were talking about the shoplifting, and I just feel that there's something that has to be done about the whole system, that people are just using the Home Depot to go and or other stores. Obviously, you said you saw something yourself that looked a bit something going on at the store where you visited. But I feel like, what are we going to do about it? That's basically what I'm asking. Like, what are they going to do about it? Because it just keeps on going.
Yeah, well, I guess there's a lot of contributing factors. Some of it might be simply poverty. Some of it might be, as you found out at Home Depot, some might be addiction to drugs or to whatever other substance. So I guess there's lots of contributing factors. Then even just the basics, cost of living. I mean, I don't know what motivates every 5-finger discount that we see out there, but yeah, it's a struggle. That much I can tell you. Going to the grocery store is painful.
Yeah, I agree. Anyways, that was all. Like I said, I didn't want you to think I just hung up on you.
No worries, Jeff. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Cheers. Enjoy the show.
You too, pal. Bye-bye. All right, let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to mediator and lawyer. Join us on line number 3 is Rhona Buchan. Hi, Rhona. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Great today. Thank you. How about you?
Good. And thanks for giving us a chance to talk about our Family Dispute Resolution Week. Monday, this is the kickoff of our first week, advancing ideas about families finding common ground, finding a more peaceful way to separate and divorce than, not automatically sort of heading to court. So we've got some events this week. We've got a public information session on Tuesday night at 7 at the Hampton Inn, where we'll have a couple of mediators, a parenting coordinator, and retired judge, and also somebody from the Public Legal Information Association of Newfoundland and Labrador, just talking about the benefits of mediation and sharing information that people could find helpful about the process, so they can make an informed decision about how they want to approach their separation and divorce.
Yeah, and you mentioned PLE in the Public Legal Information Association. That's Kevin O'Shea, who's been very generous with his time on this program in the past. And just a reminder that the Hampton Inn is on Stavanger Drive, if people are wondering where that hotel is. Okay, so this is all about trying to avoid the courts. It doesn't mean avoiding lawyers. It means avoiding the court system necessarily. How successful, in your personal experience, has been entering into mediation, been able to see people avoid the court system when we're talking divorce?
Very much. Very, very much. Very helpful. People are coming in wanting to find common ground, right? They want to find a solution. Some people, it doesn't mean it's easy. Everybody's coming to a separation with their own point of view, right? Hurt is a traumatic event in your life. It is a very traumatic, very stressful event in your life. And what we're trying to do is offer people a place that is a little bit less threatening, less scary than court to deal with it. We can see court is necessary. It's absolutely necessary for certain cases. But there's an awful lot of people who find themselves there who say, well, I didn't realize it was going to take 2 years to get a decision from a judge. I didn't realize that every time I go to court, the judge is actually telling me to go and figure this out ourselves. Because the judges believe, as we do, that the solutions that families arrive at themselves are the most enduring solutions, the most likely for families to comply with, and that it's all better for families. The changes to the Divorce Act made a few years ago say that, they support that, and they've created a duty for lawyers, for judges, and for the parties going through divorce to make their very best efforts at resolving matters outside of court. So we're taking this opportunity to talk about it, because we actually have a prof coming to do a professional session with us who's got the research data on the success of it and how much better it is for families.
We may indeed cover some ground we covered last week with Bill English, but not everybody has the opportunity to listen to every minute of the show. So one question that I think I asked Mr. English and was picked up on by some listeners is, unfortunately, when there's a divorce, that there may indeed be some alimony owed. So when we go through the courts, we know that the courts have a different enforcement authority than maybe a mediator and a mediated settlement. So how does it work when alimony becomes part of the final divorce? If I use the mediator.
Here we call it spousal support. So the mediator has a role in helping the parties determine what the appropriate spousal support is. They can help them understand the process and all the different factors and criteria that get considered when looking at spousal support, because it's not cut and dried in quite the same way that child support is. And then once you arrive at your consent, so your consent can be in the form of a separation agreement or in the form of a consent order if you've got documents filed with the court. And at that point in time, whatever your legal document is, if you want it enforced by the Support Enforcement Agency in Newfoundland and Labrador, you can file it with them and they can enforce it. We find also that agreements that people arrive at together and they understand where those agreements come from, they've arrived at them themselves. And those are much more enforceable agreements in that people are compliant with them. They understand them and they go along with them. So you don't have the same trouble with enforcement as if somebody made an order, perhaps a judge makes an order against someone. They really don't understand why they're paying this amount and they resent it. because they haven't really understood the process, and that's where your enforcement problems will come in.
Yeah, and I knew the answer because I asked Mr. English, but just for information for those who weren't tuned in for that call. So you mentioned the time it might take to go through the process of separation into divorce and to get everything finalized. Can you give us some understanding about how long it might take in the courts? Because I know it can be very complicated depending on the family's circumstances, but just in general terms, how long it might take in court versus how long it might take in mediation?
Sure, is very, very different length of time. So I did work in the court system for almost 20 years. I worked as a legal aid lawyer, and part of that was as duty counsel within the family court. And I was there for almost 2.5 years, full-time in the court. So I saw a lot of matters there. And I saw the matters, when you file a document with the court, it's about average of 4 months. It automatically gets sent for a first attempt at resolution to Family Justice Services, which is a free mediation service for parenting and child support, and we encourage everybody to partake of that. So that is the first step. It may spend, in my experience, about 2 months. It's a public service. There's a backlog, so you may spend about 2 months there. Then if it doesn't resolve at Family Justice Services, there's a note to court sent. There's another 2 months before, and I'm using 2 months as an average. If the court's really busy, like after COVID, it might be longer. It could be another 4 months before you get your first case management date. And I think what people don't often understand is that case management date, it's a 15-minute appearance before a judge, where the judge is going to ask you, what can you agree on? And some people aren't always prepared for that, and they feel that they're going to have a mini trial or be able to express themselves more to the judge in that period of time. But it's short, and the judge is bound by legislation in terms of they're very limited in what they can order there. They can only make orders by consent, essentially. So then you may get several of those appearances, all about 4 months apart, and then they are going to ask you if you want a settlement conference with a judge, which is another, you go on a waiting list for that. That waiting list could be 6 months long. And then only really after you've exhausted all these opportunities to settle, do you have an opportunity to set your matter for trial if you really haven't come to an agreement. So essentially in our family court in St. John's, my understanding right now is you're looking at about 2 years to trial. I've heard other courts in the province could be looking at 3 years or longer to get to a trial date in a family matter. So it's a very long and drawn out process.
It sounds like it's
mediation. You have almost immediate, like depending on the schedule of the mediator you're working with, you can have very quick access to the process. And then once you're in the process, it's up to you how often you want to come in, how often you're both able to, you've got to gather your disclosures. So we've got all the information on which you can make well-informed decisions.
Hopefully this next question, and maybe our last question, hopefully this makes sense. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between arbitration, mediation, and the traditional approach in the courts of collaborative family law?
Okay, so there's a major distinction. So collaborative family law is an actual sort of team process that is used successfully in a number of other provinces. We don't really have that kind of teamwork here, although I think we work on a more informal basis to collaborate here. But that is a situation where you can bring in your financial professional to the table, the mental health professional to the table, and the two lawyers make a commitment that they're at the table to resolve the matter. And if it winds up going to trial, it goes to different lawyers. Arbitration is where you have a third party who you have signed a contract with, you've committed to agreeing for them to make a decision in your matter. So one of the things that's evolving is a combination, a hybrid called mediation and arbitration, where a neutral will try to help you arrive at a decision, arrive at an agreement, and you may get an agreement on like 8 out of 10 issues, and the last 2 issues you may have signed an agreement that person gets to decide those last 2 issues. So they will make a decision. It's an administrative tribunal essentially, where that person makes a decision for you, and you agree that that's a binding decision. Rhoda,
before we run out of time, unless you weren't finished your answer there, I'm sorry.
No, I was just trying to think if I've reviewed everything. There is, of course, your traditional system involves negotiation between lawyers and then decision-making by judges. But as I said, the judges, our court is a resolution court, so at every stage they're sending people out to try to resolve, and we are offering the opportunity to have a third-party neutral help you resolve that, because while you're in court or before you're in court, conflict can become entrenched, and it can be polarizing. People are traumatized and those people are defensive, and it really helps to have a neutral third party that can help you come together in a safe space and try to find your middle ground.
Rona, give us the information about the information session tomorrow evening. What do people need to know?
Okay, it's Tuesday night, 7 o'clock at the Hampton Inn on Stavanger Drive. We run till 8:30. We'll have some tea and cookies there, and we'll have, as I said, a number of professionals for people to hear from on the panel. We'll also be launching a small short film we have, an informational film on mediation called Finding Common Ground that we made with Roger Maunders. So we're really excited to be sharing this information with people and trying to, again, help families find the most peaceful and constructive route through this.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, Rona.
Thank you very much, Patty.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Rona Buchan is a mediator and lawyer, and of course, a bunch of those types of sessions and different events throughout this week. Let's get a break in. When we come back, Sean, you're next to talk about dangerous drivers. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 5. Sean, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Patty.
Good morning.
Great morning out there. I just got back from a nice bike ride, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I recommend it to everyone. Whatever you can do to be outside today, there's no wind. That's a rarity this fall.
Very seldom is there no wind.
This is true. Totally true these days. I just listened to Rona Buchan. I did not know this, but very interesting stuff. I didn't hear Bill English. I was out of town, so I missed him. I remember Bill as a judge when I was covering the courts. Great guy. So that's very useful information, and it's poked back in the back of my mind, I'm sure many other people's minds. But Patty, the reason I'm calling today, I'm going to preface this short conversation with that when I'm on my bike ride or out for a hike or even a nice walk, I'm probably going around Bowering Park some days and then just hike around there and wherever else I can go nearby. And a lot of mornings I'm in there, like 7 o'clock, and I spot people in their vehicles. I can smell the weed as I'm going down the trail in the west parking lot. And what bothers me the most about that is that these people are becoming impaired, not to mention the fact it's illegal to actually smoke weed and sit in their car with it running or even with the keys in the ignition, no different than if you're consuming alcohol in public and while you're driving, or at least in the control of the vehicle. Now, when those people hit the roads at the most important time of the day in the early morning, when there's so many people with so many things on their minds, they don't all have their minds on driving. They got their minds on trying to get to the school on time with their kids, or they got a meeting early, or they got to meet their friend for a coffee early and then go to work, and so on and so forth. Not everyone has got their minds on driving. And when you're driving a 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 pound vehicle, that can cause havoc. Like if you don't have your eyes on the road for the next stop sign or the next light that suddenly turns red and everyone slams on their brakes up ahead of you, you could easily have a major collision going on here. People get injured, and that's a lot of it's for life. If you're lucky to get out of it and your seatbelt save you and your airbags do, and you come out without any long-standing issues, medically speaking, and have to get in the medical system, and you know what that's like, we all do. Nobody wants to do that. But I find that people do not have their minds on the roads. They don't have full attention to their driving abilities and how they drive. It's scary out there in the early mornings, and there are no shortage, Patty, of investigative things that have gone over the years where they come out and say that the worst time of the day is in the morning. Most people haven't even woken up yet, almost. Like they're still in a bit of a daze from their sleep when they hit the road. And this is well-established documentation that has been taken from accidents and other things over the years to basically warn us that a lot of people are not not on the ball at that hour. Like they just aren't fully awake or they aren't fully aware. It might be 9, 10 o'clock before they get to that point. And I mention this because you can't be too careful. Now, I don't know what happened the weekend down in Buren, but it's a tragedy when a person who's just in their senior years gets run down by an automobile and died a few hours later in hospital. That grandmother or mother, that person who's looking forward to her senior years, out for a walk, probably to keep her health up, and because we all have to do that as we get older, especially, keep moving, and that's really important, and now she's gone. My heart goes out to their family, to their friends down there, but what really bothered me this morning was, that lady should have been seen, or hopefully should have been seen by the driver, and at those hours, like in the evening, I think it was in the afternoon, actually late afternoon, stand to be corrected. But as drivers, we can't be too careful. We're the ones driving the vehicle, and the lifelong pain for that family and for the driver is enormous. And I covered the courts, and I've seen it from all sides back in my day, and you can't repair it. You just can't repair that. Once it's done, it's done. So people have got to get the message that you are in control of the motor vehicle. You're the one that can do a lot of harm, or you can drive very safely and carefully and not be impaired or under the influence of anything when you're driving, and take the most caution you can that you don't harm someone else.
I see it every day. One of my least favorite games is when I leave here after the show and I'm trying to turn left onto Kelsey to watch how many people run the red lights. And not one day since I started this silly game has somebody not run a red light there. So it's mind-boggling to me.
Well, I don't know how to stop it except to say that the fines aren't enough. The insurance companies, once you start getting fines, you're going to find out what the real expense is, because the insurance companies have absolutely no tolerance for it, and your insurance will go up a fortune on your next renewal date. Forget the fine for a minute. The fine might be who knows how much, $300 maybe, $200, whatever it's going to be. But when you're running red lights and you have a history of driving, not safely, and you're caught doing things, you will pay for it in the long run. But like the innocent person who's out for a walk to try and improve her health, or just to get some fresh air in, because the weather has been anything but really good. So as soon as you see the sun, like me, I was out early, you hate the thought that you can't go out safely, either ride your bike. I personally wouldn't ride my bike in St. John's unless I'm on a trail. I don't think people even see you. But out for a walk, on the side of the road, especially down there, I don't think there's any sidewalks in Buren. But at least there's a bit of gravel and so on. You should be able to go out for a walk safely and not get hit by a car and killed.
Yeah,
it's the driver's fault. The driver's got to be the one to take the most care that he's not going to hurt someone.
Obviously and absolutely. Did you want to say something about Dave Rodofsky's call as well, Sean, before we run out of time?
I really did. I've known David forever. What a great guy. And also John, his co-partner in starting up the Positive Thinkers Club. Like you had it right. I mean, the Positive Thinkers Club is a great place to go and probably get yourself back on track in some ways. But there's a lot more to it than that. My first meeting for the Positive Thinkers Club was when I launched cellular technology back in 1990. And they asked me would I come and talk about it. And the positiveness, because of the brand new technology, would anyone actually buy them? They were $3,500 for a flip phone back then. You got 50 minutes free on your plan. Not very much. It was a very expensive process, and I thought we're gonna eat that up like there's no tomorrow. But I went there to speak to them about positive thinking, and I said, I'm leaving one career to go into another one. But the positive part about it is the opportunity to do it. And, it's only in our power to look in the mirror in the morning and say to yourself, if it is meant to be, it is up to me. So you go out the door in the morning and you want to make the place better. You want to keep going down that road and pathway of career and life. And I couldn't have gone to a better place to talk about that move into a different career than the Positive Thinkers Club. And most people are very comfortable in their own shoes where they are, and it's comfortable, and you don't want to step outside of that little comfort zone. But let me tell you, my grandfather told me when I was very young, my step-grandfather, that if you haven't had 5 careers in his lifetime, you haven't lived. And I think I was 8 years old. So he was a self-taught architect and teacher and so on, and did so much more. He started the co-ops and Corner Book in his basement because people were really hurting financially. And he just, whatever he felt like should be done or he should do, he did it. And I'd recommend to everyone out there, if you got time to go to a Positive Thinkers Club meeting, it's so much more than just that. It's renewal. It's getting yourself out of that comfort zone, and your life will only go forward and be probably happier and more successful, more satisfying if you go and take that step.
Appreciate the time, Sean. Thank you.
Okay, Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, down at the Legion in Pleasantville. Okay.
Thanks, Sean.
See you, Teddy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, I get up and look in the mirror and think, oh, another show. Let's go. Break time. When we come back, we're speaking with you. Welcome back. Let's go. Line number 6. Good morning, Walter. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you so much for these couple of minutes to have a little chat with you about a gentleman who I have the greatest of respect for. And while a sad call, and a lot of people are hurting since Friday, Mr. Tommy Hogan has left us, and I know that there's still quite a few people who that maybe don't know that Tommy has passed. Tommy was not only a wonderful mechanic, a great technical mind when it came to the automotive sector, but also a fantastic teacher for any apprentice that went through his hands. The kindest, most gentle person I've ever met in my life. I don't mind saying that I grew up in a family with no positive male role model at all. And when I met Tommy 35 years ago, I found myself going out of my way to wanting to be into his space. Anywhere that Tommy was, I'd like to be there. He's one of those guys that lived life the right way. A very wonderful human being. And while sad, I do want to take this opportunity to say what a gift it was to know him. And I think Tommy knew also that life was a wonderful gift, and he lived it the right way. One of the best, if not the best, mechanic I've ever met. Amazing dart player. So it's province and Canada-wide when people learn that Tommy has passed. Loved darts, loved Rosie O'Grady's, loved his family. And I just wanted to say to his family and friends, and I'm going to say not thousands, not hundreds of friends, but probably thousands, what a pleasure it was to know him. And while he is not with us anymore, he'll never be forgotten. And a wonderful role model, Patty, for anybody who is not only going through the automotive sector to do it the right way, but just to live life the right way. Patty he was a wonderful man, and I'm gonna miss him dearly. And I just wanted to send my condolences to his family and his many, many friends and acquaintances.
How old was Tommy?
Tommy was 62, taken too early. While it's sad for me that he won't get to enjoy his retirement years. I think maybe if Tommy was here, he'd look at me and say, "I was never going to retire. What are you talking about?" He didn't get his chance to retire and do what he wanted to do. But he was a youngish man and taken suddenly, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. You don't really get a chance to say hello every week and stuff. And I've called some friends on this weekend, and they're like, "What are you calling for?" I said, "Because I adore you. I'm going to make a point now of calling all my friends and acquaintances that I really have a lot of respect for once a week or so, and just let them know that I really appreciate them, because you don't know when your last day is around. Our time here is finite, and it's a miracle that we're even on this earth to be a human living a life. And while sad, I couldn't be happier to have known him and to have called him a great friend."
I'm sorry for your loss, Walter. My condolences.
Thank you so much, Patty. And to the family and friends, one last time. He lived his life the right way, and we're all sad, but boy, what a guy.
I appreciate your time, Walter, as sad as it is. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Walter's not the first person to let me know about Tommy's passing. I met him, but only once, and in passing. I used passing twice in the same sentence. Yeah, so our condolences to his friends and his family. Let's check in on the Twitter before we get to the news break. We're VOCM Open Line, you know what to do. Email address is openline@vocm.com. Oh, consider this a mass reply to the call we had from Jeff about his father's drug card got compromised when he took money out of something. And a bunch of people wrote it and said that maybe he took it out of his RRSP. Possibly, because then it does become income, and then you have to pay a surtax on it. So even the son didn't know where he took the money out of, which is why it's hard for me to make any declarative statement on it, because we're not even really sure where the money came from. So, yes, for everyone who wrote in and said maybe it was an RRSP, possibly. And thank you for sending along the note. But considering the fact there was a couple of dozen, I probably won't get a chance to reply to all of those. But yes, I appreciate the feedback, and you're right. Maybe it was an RSP. I really don't know. Let's get a break in for the news. When we come back, lots of time left for you. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number one. Michael Boyle, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. You probably remember Howie Meeker. I'm sure you do. Remember Howie Meeker?
Absolutely. Went to a hockey school at Howie's.
Yeah. Well, remember Howie, way back years ago, some of our listeners might remember this, Howie used to start the news. The actual news, I think, must have been CB, with the sports news. So I was so glad this morning that you mentioned Abby Newhook and Jada Lee. I think it's Jada Lee. You know, the great achievements that they've done. I think it's good to recognize sports. Very important. You'd agree with that?
Absolutely. And you mentioned Howie Meeker. I was hosting the Hall of Fame induction ceremony the night that Howie went in St. John's.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, talking about Hall of Fame, that just leads me into my next item is that at the weekend we had the Newfoundland. Now, I'm not representing the Newfoundland Hall of Fame. I'm not a spokesman, but I do know that Dr. Noel Brown was inducted into the Newfoundland Rugby Hall of Fame, and what an honour and what a gentleman. You would certainly agree with that. And I should mention too, as well, to give credit. Now, I don't know all the names, but Frank DC, we all know Frank, passed away too soon, and also Frank Collins passed away, and Mike Gluck, and I think there is a ladies rugby team, and I can't remember what particular year. So the contribution that Noel made to Noel Brown was really Mr. Rugby in Newfoundland. You know, your boys probably know that too.
Yeah, I played with Noel, and he's much older than I am. One of my first year, I think we played one match where he came off the sidelines and played. Riley was a fierce competitor and a fierce gentleman. I saw him not long ago, went over to the final of the Goodyear Cup, and of course Riley was there in his perch. And between him and Frank and Parfrey, they really are the three gentlemen that were the driving force behind rugby here in the province. Frank for sure, and absolutely Noel, and certainly Pat Parfrey as well. Pat played for Ireland, so I mean, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing gentleman. And that leads me to my next item is that you probably are aware that I had a memoir out the fall. It's doing quite, reasonably well. And there's one aspect the memoir is involved in sports in terms of the Telly 10, running back in the early 70s when we probably had half a dozen people in the Telly 10. You think of phenomenal growth in Telly 10 in the last 50 years. Just been absolutely phenomenal in this province. Now, I don't know if you had a chance to have a look at my memoir. The three things I tell people, I hope they find it interesting. I hope they find it reflective, easy to read, and perhaps most of all enjoyable. And I don't know if I don't know if it measures up in those terms or not, Paddy. But as long as it's a good read,
It is. I can say that from personal experience.
Yeah, and as I say, it's not my task here just to talk about my book. I'd like to mention there are a lot of good Newfoundland books, and this Christmas people should think about Newfoundland books. in a sense, not just your coffee books and your travelogue books, something, that the real essence of Newfoundland and the books that are available. There are lots of good books, and as I say, people. I think it's the importance of shopping local. I think it's very, very. I think we learned that in a sense during the recent tariff kind of thing. To be able to shop local is very, very important, isn't it?
I think so, and of course I'll always add the caveat that people can do as they see fit with their own hard-earned money, but there's a big upside to protecting and to buying local. I mean, just for the obvious reasons, obviously, and even in some of the world of like crafts leading into the holiday season, when the exemption rule for goods under a certain price tag was removed by the Americans, all of a sudden there's a big fee attached to it. A lot of the local crafters in particular, they lost access to the American market, so they really do need your consideration in this holiday season. Maybe have a look for what they're selling. Maybe it'll be attractive to you. And on that front, we really need the big retailers to stop being so misleading with the way they label things. If there's a push about buying domestic product, whether it be product of Canada or made in Canada, please do not put a big maple leaf sign above a product that's from Argentina or somewhere else and pretending it's Canadian. Just stop doing that. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has identified many examples of. They didn't levy any fines, and they should have, because that's just unfair treatment of consumers that are already strapped. And if they think they're trying to do the right thing or trying to support local, but they're being bamboozled, that's just patently unfair.
Yeah. Okay, Paddy, I thought to give a good congratulations out to Noel, and we'll see you around again.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, Michael. Bye-bye.
Will do. Bye.
All right, let's keep rolling. Let's go to line number 2, saying more to retired psychologist Michael Dingwell. Good morning, Michael. You're on the air.
Yes, Patty, thank you. I was intrigued. I just got in here. I was intrigued just listening. That gentleman, I believe, mentioned rugby. And I everything you guys were just talking about, just love listening to that. I just finished a Matt Damon movie, Invictus, which was about the rugby triumph of South Africa, Nelson Mandela in 1995, I believe. And yeah, it was a very well spoken gentleman. The reason I called you today, Patty.
Can I just pick up on that, Michael, very quickly? One of the very best and most famous athletes ever produced by this province, Rod Snow, was a member of Team Canada at that Rugby World Cup in South Africa. And the match between South Africa and Canada, there was a big melee of which Rod Snow was involved. Anyway.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, we. I mean, as a sport, when you think about the size and the big, strong people and men and women we have here in Newfoundland, rugby seems a natural thing for us to sort of follow. And it doesn't surprise me that one of our own made it to, that international level like that. The reason I called you today, I was on your show about 2 years ago, and one thing I'd like to acknowledge very quickly is the importance of this platform that you raise here. I said that 2 years ago. We have very few vestiges of freedom of expression and freedom of voice like this anymore in this country. As much as we think we have more, we really don't. And what you guys do is very, very important. When I was on 2 years ago, it was for a trivial thing, probably seemed to some telephone matter, but it was, at the time, like I said, it was a lifeline for my son who has autism and CP and lives in Toronto and basically has been abducted and held hostage against my will. But, I mean, you restored that, and I'm forever in your gratitude for that. The reason I called today is I wanted to highlight your listeners might be interested in a plea that has been published on YouTube called Vicariously Autistic, and it's a brief summary of some of the autism activity and advocacy that we've been involved in for the last several years, and introduces a book that I have just compiled called Vicariously Autistic, which borrows from that legal term vicarious responsibility and with a lot of poetic license, and basically implies that fathers like myself and moms too, and our kids who raise children with autism, a lot of times we live as if we had autism. We have forced to live as if we are the primary consumers of autism ourselves. And this work over the years and my background in community and clinical psychology has led me to compile this book. And this plea that is called Vicariously Autistic, and it's posted on YouTube by some supporters of mine, is one that I'm going to hope to present not at but to the United Nations very soon. And I'm taking it to some lawmakers and law enforcers, I guess, in Ontario very soon. And the reason I was forced to do it is because of the thousands of men and their children I've met in the last 10 years since I've been doing this, and come to discover that the greatest area of social injustice in this country today, arguably, that affects the most Canadians is this area of divorce and autism and the biofeedback it's in with PTSD and related things that affects men and their children of divorce in this country today. Literally millions I've come to discover. And so I wanted to make your listeners aware of that and to know that, a lot of the people that I've met over the last few years, we are trying to make headway in some ways. And I would encourage them to read this plea and listen to it. And hopefully the book will be published after. It won't be ready for Christmas, but out after Christmas. And because our personal case is just absolutely desperate. I get a young person, a 34-year-old son who I'm trying to be, as Nelson Mandela said in Invictus, the master of my soul and the captain of my future, or whatever, some such thing as that. And it's very, very difficult. There's no resources available to any of these men. Some of the statistics I look at say 1 in every 12 minutes, a man in North America, a victim of PTSD related to divorce, kills himself. And, as a person who's worked for 52 years to make sure that people don't harm themselves or others, I've got a lot more understanding of why people take such dire measures in their life. And we're trying to be part of a force for change in that regard. And I appreciate your time. Obviously, as I'm sounding, this is very personal and very emotive for me. And but I would encourage your listeners to please look at that, if they get a chance, look at that YouTube site, and it's called Vicariously Autistic, one father and son's attempts to, resurrect our life. And that's about all I really wanted to say about that, other than thank you for the opportunity to make people aware of this. And, there are some of us out there trying to make a difference, and a positive difference. And I was just presented this morning with probably looks like an under $100 garbage can from the city, and I'm told the city of Cornbrook presented 8,000 of those. And I mean, I'm thinking if they're $100 each, that's almost $1 million. And there is nowhere for me or any man and his children to go in this city today and receive the kind of support that we need to gain restitution for our lives. I talk, since I spoke to you 2 years ago, I have spent 3,000 hours on the telephone with my son. And over the last 10 years, it amounts to 2 years of solitary confinement that he and I, it's not about me, it's about him. And he's the one who's the most vulnerable. And every day I'm asked, Dad, I want to come home. I'm your son, I want to come home to Newfoundland for Christmas. And if I go to, I've never broken the law, Patty, or done, like most of the men I represent. I don't want to, making this too personal, I don't want to do that, deflect from the brave and courageous men and families who is so wrongfully treated. And if I was to drive or fly to Toronto today and say, "I let them get in and come home with Dad," there would be an Amber Alert, and I'd be arrested. And that's not the fault of the police. I have great respect for what these men and women do, and what every working man and woman does in this country. But we're dropping the ball. We're missing the boat in this country on millions of men and their children in this country now vulnerabilized by divorce. And my final thing I'd like to say is, our children are our life. And when you take away our children, you take away our life. And
I'm not sure of all of the circumstances, but I appreciate your time and good luck with the book, Michael.
Thank you very much, Paddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And this from a former rugby player chiming in on the inductions into the Hall of Fame includes Leslie Cowan, who used to be Leslie Noftel, was her maiden name, Roxanne Butler, who's big driving force of women's rugby around here, and the team was the women's 1996 under-19 team. Congratulations to all hands. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 1. Danny, you're on the air.
Paddy, I filled myself low tomorrow for gas, and I started walking up over the street, and some man stopped me, but I get a lift for the gas can. Because before, when I get gas to walk back home, and it was nice of them.
Okay, and what happened, Danny? Sorry?
I filled my gas can on Salvador, and I started walking up the street with a gas can in my hand, and I said, "It's going to be kind of heavy when I get back." So the man came by, he said, "Do you want a lift?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So I was going to offer him a cup of coffee for him, but he didn't want it. But it was nice for that man to do that for me.
Absolutely. A helping hand is always worth thanking and acknowledging. Anything else you want to say, Danny?
What do you think about the Liberals and PCs?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What do you think of the Liberals and PCs?
What do I think of the two main parties? Or what do I think of the Liberals and PCs? It's a pretty big question. Well, I'll just give this very short answer before I take another call. In the big scheme of things, the differences between the Liberals and the PCs in this province is not huge. I mean, if we're talking about the difference on the federal level between Conservatives and the Liberals, I think there are some distinct differences. In this province, not so much. There might be some very small philosophical differences in governing, but not the big, massive gap or difference between those two parties as many people like to think there is, because there's really not a huge difference, I don't think. And I mean, I might be proven wrong here in the next 4 years with the Wakeham-led Conservative majority government, but it's not huge, not a huge difference. So I think about the same of both currently. We'll see what the future holds.
Do you think we lost a lot of work from resources from oil and gas?
Short answer is probably, yeah. But those are big questions, Danny, that I don't think we have enough time to answer them in full, but yeah.
But the only thing we done here in Newfoundland is build a gravity base, but we never built the modules.
Yeah, construction jobs at Bay du Nord will be, at this moment in time, Equinor has said that it's basically subsea work and the topsides work will be done elsewhere. Could we do some of it here? Of course. I mean, the last big lot of work we did some work with Hebron, obviously. And then prior to that, it's about 20 years, White Rose, and that work was done in Marystown. What the jobs look like at this point into the future, if Equinor proceeds, at this point, it looks like subsea and maybe not much beyond that, Danny.
Yeah, the railroad south, they could have built the modules in Bull.
Maybe so.
And the Hebron, they had problems getting living quarters on it.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see now what the benefits agreement looks like into the future. But I appreciate the call, Danny. I'm glad you had a good Samaritan give you a hand.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Yeah, and Beta Nord, again, it happens all the time, but I'll just put it back out there, is, to be told that I'm turning a deaf ear to one topic or another, it's just a friendly reminder. If I don't bring up something that you think is important, you absolutely have the opportunity to bring it up yourself. You just do. So this morning, it's interesting that he mentioned Beta Nord, is like I was told this morning, why not talk about Beta Nord, which, my God, we've talked about a lot here on this program. And got a little bit of pushback last week when made reference to an article that was written about what type of leverage we have available insofar as negotiations with Equinor, whether it be on the benefits agreement or frameworks at the CNLOPB and or jobs. And the author of the article was talking about us being cautious in not overplaying our hand. And, making reference to an article doesn't mean that I like it or loathe it or support it or want to trash it. So the Beta Nord conversation, whether or not it belongs on a fast-track list with the newly established Major Projects Office, again, that topic and whatever else you want to talk about is available to you right after this.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the program, and in reference to the why not talk about this, that, the most recent email was about nurse practitioners. So, for starters, nurse practitioners obviously play a critical role in the healthcare delivery system. And the specific question was about when we're going to get to a point where nurse practitioners, as opposed to a pilot program for hanging out their own shingle, working in the private sector, as opposed to being able to bill MCP directly for every nurse practitioner who wants to work of their own accord, set up their own clinic, establish their own schedules and the flexibility that comes with it. I think it's a great idea. As I've said many times, the motivation inside the public sector is to try to keep as many nurse practitioners as possible working inside the public sector versus the opportunity to go out on their own and to bill MCP. I think as just a member of the general public here, our goal is to make sure access to primary care is as best possible, as easy as possible. So I don't think people really care a whole lot, not members of the public service, as to how the nurse practitioner is billing MCP. We just want to get the care. And nor do I think people really care a whole lot as to whether or not they go to a clinic operated by NL Health Services or just a clinic in an office on Elizabeth Avenue where someone has hung out their own shingle as a nurse practitioner and that access to primary care, and for no money to change hands. To go in, because your tax dollars are already paid for healthcare, to simply go into the clinic, get what you need, and let MCP take care of the rest. Just like if I had to go to a clinic operated by NL Health Services. Next issue on the health services front. Getting some pretty good reports from folks who have taken the opportunity to go to the new ambulatory care hub on Stavanger Drive in the old Costco building. Apparently it's a pretty good experience. A pretty comprehensive suite of services are available there. So that's the good news. The one question that we've had, and that we've reiterated many times here about that, is the government was always considering establishing this level of ambulatory care and all the different clinics and diagnostic services and blood collection, what have you, that goes on inside. The question for me was, if we knew we were looking for that type of space, that size of facility, to do exactly what they've done, why did we allow the public sector, or probably a private developer, to buy it, and then we go ahead and pay for all the renos and basically lease the space off of the private sector operator? Nothing wrong with private business being involved at that level, but if we always knew that's what we were going to do, why didn't we buy it as a government in the first place? To, cut out the middleman, so to speak. Let's go to line number 1. Mary, you're on the air.
How are you today?
I'm okay.
Eddie, I want to speak about the health care, which, there's an ongoing thing.
Sure.
But my son went to the hospital on Friday night with a vicious pain in his head. Now, it had to be bad for him to go. But anyway, Paddy, I'll make it brief. He was there for 14 hours with this vicious pain. And after 14 hours, he was in and out in a few minutes. And you know what they told him? I mean, it was disgraceful. They never did nothing for him. They told him that when he yawned, he opened his mouth too wide and it hurt his head. Now, Paddy, that is disgraceful without doing any tests or anything. Sure, how did they know? I mean, you know, I know he was really sick to go in the beginning, but to think that that's all they did, he was in and out in about not 5 minutes, and that's what they told him. Now,
I'm sorry, what did they tell him? I missed that part.
That's pretty disgusting. Pardon?
What did they tell him? I'm sorry?
They told him that when he yawned, he opened his mouth too wide, and that gave him the pain. Now, Paddy, did you ever hear the like?
No, and plus I'm not so sure. I haven't. The next time I go to yawn, I'll see whether or not I can control how wide out my mouth. I don't think I've ever thought of it.
I know, Paddy. I was going to tell you, when you yawn again, be careful. Oh my, it's disgusting. It's just disgusting. That's what it is. It's disgusting. And I mean, they were like sardines down there. But anyway, when he finally got in, that's what they told him, Paddy.
I do know every now and then when I yawn, I open my mouth or my jaw wide enough to let my ears pop. Maybe that's just me.
Well,
but
I don't know if his ears popped or not, but he had a real bad head, I can tell you that. And I mean, for him to go and wait that long, it had to be bad.
And again, for that to be the diagnosis is something I haven't heard of before. But secondly, how long did you say he had to wait?
14 hours.
14 hours for a 5-minute in and out to be told your yawn is too wide.
Yes.
Strange.
Now, Paddy, it is strange and it's disgusting and disgraceful. But anyway, Paddy, that's that bit. And briefly, I want to just touch on the driving out there. As you might know yourself, the driving is disgusting. I mean, I thought it was bad on Thorburn Road, Paddy, from the Columbus Drive up to the lights on Larkhall and O'Leary. But I was down to the eye clinic there last week, and I'm not driving now because of I got my eyes done, and I was waiting in front of the A&W for the bus. Well, Sacred Heart of the Lord on Torbay Road, like I said, I thought Thorburn Road was bad, but it was wicked on Torbay Road. Wicked. I don't know how there's not more people killed or more accidents or whatever. I really don't know, Paddy, because they go up and down here all out, and in the evening, when there's 2 lines of traffic, 3 really, there's one to make a left onto O'Leary, and the other is to go straight up Thorburn at that light. But, you know, I've seen it before. They haul out of the traffic in the evening and shimmy up the sidewalk and make a right on Larkhall. They may live over there and they may not. If not, they'll make a swing around and go on up Thorburn Road to avoid the traffic and the lights. So that's what we're dealing with, Paddy. It's frightening. It's frightening. It's really frightening.
It certainly can be. There's no doubt about it. One of my boys is a pilot, and knock on wood, but I'm less nervous when he's in the air than when he's driving home from Gander.
Yeah, I know, Paddy. Well, I wouldn't go on the highway, not for any money, because I only live on this little stretch of Thorburn Road, and it's not a road. It's a racetrack. That's what I call it, a racetrack. And it's scandalous. It's really scandalous. And there's nobody. Once I saw police stop someone in front of my door when I come home. And when they left the person he stopped, I said, "You should be in here more often." And right sarcastic, he said to me, "Well, I'm here now, ain't I?" Well, I said, "Good luck. When I'll speak to you again, it'll be a long day or any." Because I get so upset about things, Paddy. It's society today is unreal. It's just unreal what's going on today. Anyway, Paddy, I don't know. That's my beef this morning, but I'm a bit upset over it all.
I understand, Mary. I appreciate your time. Hopefully your young fella's okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's an interesting diagnosis. Like, when you yawn... Now, I kind of feel like I need to yawn. Can you actually control how wide you open your mouth? I suppose you can. When I go to do it, inevitably I'll have to let go a yawn or two at some point this afternoon. But, yeah, I don't even know if I've ever really thought about whether or not I can control it. I don't think about it. I just let it fly. But I do know every now and then I pop my own ears when I do it. There's a direct relationship with how your jaw moves and whether or not your ears pop. Anyway, Darryl, you stay right there. I don't want to cut you short of time because we're nudging up against the scheduled break at 11:45. Once again, let's see what's shaking on the Twitter box. Some wild stuff going on there. And you really do. get back to AI or whether or not these are, as they refer to them, bot farms. But Twitter in particular has really become unbelievably unbearable for the most part. Now, plenty of people that interact with us based on what they hear on the show or what they want to hear on the show, for the most part, it's all right. But for some, I just don't understand the concept of waking up angry all day, go to bed angry, get up, rinse and repeat. And it's non-stop. I mean, some of these are important matters. Some of them, you just got to think that it's manufactured. Maybe it's for the sake of clicks, I suppose, because, any issue regarding something of a positive nature doesn't get a whole lot of interaction or a whole lot of clicks. Things that are negative, boy, do they ever. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 2. Daryl, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Paddy. How you doing today?
Not bad, I suppose. You?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful good. Can't complain. It's all good. Paddy, what I want to talk about is the rodent situation. I guess right across Newfoundland and Labrador, but as you probably know, Gander have had some issues with the rodents, and there were some videos taken and so forth. But what I want to bring attention to your listening audience, there's remedies to it all. And what it is, what draws rodents, this big thing is compost, bird seed, pet feces, dog do and all that stuff, tall grass, leaves, and so forth. But the remedy to it, if you put it on the perimeters of your property, is garlic, like cloves of garlic or powder, and distilled vinegar. That stares them away too. And you usually put it on the perimeter of your property, you say by your fence areas, whatever, keep them from entering and so forth. But here in the town of Gander, I've addressed issues. There's a lot of zones in Gander, which is owned by the town of Gander. So you got high grass, alders, and all that stuff, which they breed into. So it's very simple. If the town of Gander, not only town of Gander, homeowners as well, if they wouldn't clear areas which they own, like the alders, tall grass and all that, where they breed in, that would be a good start. And homeowners as well got to do their part as well. But what people don't realize with the rodents, you look at Gene Hackman, the actor Gene Hackman, his wife and his dog died from rat poisoning. And what it is a virus. It's called the hantavirus. It spells HANTAVIRUS. And that's what they passed away by. And so this is why we got to do our due diligence when it comes to rodents and rats, because this hantavirus could be, your pet could carry it and pass it on to you, and they might not get sick, and they can pass it on to you. And once you get that, you're pretty well done. So we're going to have to start being proactive with this rodent situation. I mean, because I know it's right across the province, not only Gander, but Gander is gone terrible. And not only that, they breed in dormant buildings, and there's dormant buildings here in Gander. It's just dormant, and that's it. It's just left there. And so this is right where rats and pigeons and everything breed from. So we're going to start being proactive and start taking initiative to do things in that way.
Sure. As it pertains to compost, a solid side container or a good tumbler compost, you can go a long way to protecting your property from rodents, rats in particular. But they are obviously attracted to nice, warm, vegetable waste compost if it's in an inappropriate container, for sure. The issue regarding disease, it really does require persistent, consistent exposure to rat feces to contract that particular illness, but it can be extremely dangerous. And I know, even you talk about rodents in Central, man, St. John's is, I hate to say it and I hate to think it, is overrun. It is absolute madness. And, even when I take the puppy out, to try to keep your eyes peeled for cat poo and rat feces is a full-time job. You can't just go out and leisurely fart around in the park and let him do his business and pick it up after he does it. But man, St. John's is bad. And so when you think about places like the abandoned Grace Hospital nurses' residence and the Hoyles Escazoni property and Ballyhaley, now that they're going to develop it, you really need the city and all municipalities to pay strict attention to pest control before all the work begins, because I live in that neck of the woods, and I guarantee you, when walking through the Ballyhaley property, the amount of rat burrows is nuts. I mean, we're talking thousands upon thousands and thousands. And if they get displaced from there and end up in my backyard, I'll be out of my mind.
Oh yeah, it's bad stuff. That's like, well, I got a couple dogs myself now. I don't roam around in the yard and so forth, but I'm always going out looking. So far, so good, because I keep the property clean and on top of everything. But I mean, outside of my fence here, I've just with Town of Gander. Behind my fence is a town zone which they own, and it's all alders and grass. And I told him, I said, this is where this stuff needs to be cleaned up, simple stuff, because this is where they hide and breed, especially like for the winter and so forth. So, and I've heard about what you're saying, St. John's is overrun by it and all that stuff, but if we don't start being proactive, like you said, I mean, they carry serious disease like this hantavirus. You Google it. I mean, this is serious stuff, and so if we want to start, we gotta be proactive and like our animals and healthy. And I don't let them off the leash when I go anywhere, because I'm afraid I don't want them to wander off somewhere and then come up on something like rat feces or whatever. So it's a serious stuff, and so if there's ways we can be proactive, but it seems like it's not being dealt with serious enough. And all municipalities here in Newfoundland, Labrador, you got to start taking this serious, and they're drawn to Garabbeach. And it was a place here in Gander, for example. Someone took a video of it. You might have seen it. And God, I don't know how many rats I've seen the video. It's crazy, but it's so simple what we could do to keep this from happening. But the unfortunate part about it, when we got rid of all the dumps, one time you had the rats and the bears and everything out there, and now where we don't have the dumps no more is other ways. Now they're coming elsewhere for looking for food, unfortunately. But hopefully, everybody got to be proactive. Homeowner, the municipalities, everybody got to play their part and try to avoid these things. Because I mean, if you get sick from this, man, I'm telling you, it's not good.
No, sir. Daryl, appreciate the time. I'm going to sneak on one more.
Okay, again, thanks, Patty, and all the best to you and your listening audience and staff at the OCM. Have a great finish to your day.
You too, Daryl. Take care.
Right on.
All right, bye-bye.
Right on. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Let's go to line number 1. Chris, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Okay, how you doing?
Not too bad. I was out to a flea market there a little over a year ago, and I purchased a box of envelopes, thinking they were empty envelopes. And inside, there was 50th anniversary there. These people were married back in the 50s, so I was just wondering if any of their families would like to have these back. The name on the anniversary card is Joan and Fraser Clark, and I would like to know if I could give them back to them.
And so what are they? Belong to the Clarks?
It was a wedding anniversary.
Oh, okay.
50th wedding anniversary. And it was 1952 to 2002. There's a beautiful picture of these two people on there. So if anybody is hearing me out there, any relatives belong to Joan and Fraser Clark, you can call the show and get my number, Patty. And there's something else I found when I was down by the Dominion there a little while back. I found a little brochure with a little girl on it, and it has a baby blue dress. So I didn't want to throw it away. It looked like it broke away from the keychain. And also, Patty, now that I got you on the phone, do you know what's going on with the fence around the Colonial building up there? It seems like there's patches of fence going missing every year.
Around the Colonial building?
Yeah.
You mean the big metal fence?
Yes.
Or iron?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, I heard you talking about the speeders and the cameras. Well, I think the public really need to think about picking up their phone and driving, because I see it every day myself. Now, I know you talked about some of the vehicles that are on the road that shouldn't be on the road. But about a month ago, Patty, I was going down Logie Bay Road, and there was a man on the crosswalk. And there was this red vehicle in the outside lane, buddy. And she was clipping her. I got the license plate, and I won't say the license plate, but it was a red vehicle. And this woman, she went on the outer ring road and turned on the access road that goes into Stavanger. And that man was a very lucky man. I'm surprised he didn't call your show. He was pretty close to getting clipped. So people got to pay strict attention out there and stop using their cell phones. because the day that they hit and kill somebody when they're on their cell phone, it'll be too late then, right? But anyway, there's not much else I have to say today, Paddy.
I appreciate the call. Thanks a lot, Chris. And for Fraser and Joan Clark, or someone belong to them, one of the mementos, or I guess a photograph of you and your 50th anniversary, Chris has it. We'd like to reunite it with the family. How about that?
All right, thank you, Paddy. And congratulations on your son being a pilot, buddy.
Yeah, pretty great, eh?
Yes, he's a courageous fellow. I guarantee you that. You got to have courage for that one.
Yeah.
All right, all the best.
You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, proud of him. He just completed the exam for his commercial pilot's license last Friday afternoon. Pretty super stuff. All right, good show today. Big thanks to all hands who support the program, all of the callers, listeners, emailers, tweeters. You're all right. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. Talk in the morning. Bye-bye.